Chapter 5. Ireland. Before Patrick, a land of kings, druids, and ancient beliefs. Before we follow Patrick back to Ireland, we must first understand the world he was returning to. To modernize, Ireland evokes monasteries, carved stone crosses, and saints whose names echo through history. But when Patrick stepped onto its shores in the 5th century, the island looked nothing like the Christian landscape we imagine today. There were no cathedrals, no monasteries filled with chanting monks, no church bells calling communities to prayer, no Christian kingdoms. Patrick entered a land shaped by ancient Celtic traditions that had matured over centuries. Ireland, unlike Britain, had never bowed to Rome. Roman merchants visited. Roman goods circulated. Roman writers described the island as Hibernia. Yet Roman legions never marched across its hills, and no Roman governor ever ruled its people. Ireland followed its own path, preserving a distinct Celtic culture unlike anything in the Roman world Patrick had known as a child. The island was not a single kingdom. It was a mosaic of dozens of small realms, each ruled by its own ri, or king. Some governed only a modest territory, others commanded larger regions through alliances and military strength. Above them stood powerful provincial kings. Occasionally, one claimed the title of High King of Ireland, though his authority rested more on influence and loyalty than on absolute control. Political life shifted constantly. Alliances formed and dissolved. Disputes over land, cattle, and honor sparked frequent warfare. Raiding was common and socially accepted. It was within this world that Patrick himself had once been captured. To modern readers, such instability may seem chaotic. Yet Irish society possessed sophisticated systems of law, poetry, education, and governance. Patrick was not entering a primitive land. He was entering a civilization with deep intellectual and spiritual roots. The Druids. Among the most respected figures in Irish society stood the Druids. Much has been written about them, some true, much legendary. The reality is both fascinating and complex. Druids were not merely priests. They were teachers, judges, advisors to kings, guardians of tradition, interpreters of omens, and experts in law. Their influence reached into every corner of Celtic life. They left almost no written records. What we know comes from Roman authors like Julius Caesar, later Irish literature written after Christianity spread, and archaeological evidence. Because of this, historians tread carefully. Many popular ideas about Druids cannot be proven. What seems clear is that they believed the natural world mirrored spiritual realities. Sacred groves, rivers, mountains, and certain trees held deep significance. Seasonal festivals marked the turning of the year. Nature itself was woven into worship. Patrick would later meet a people whose spirituality was already attuned to creation. This may explain why early Irish Christian writers spoke so beautifully of God's presence in the natural world. Christianity did not erase Celtic longing, it transformed it. A world of symbols. The Celtic imagination delighted in symbolism. Stories passed from generation to generation through skilled poets. Genealogies stretched back centuries. Heroes grew larger than life. The spoken word carried immense authority. Professional poets, the Palladius, memorized vast bodies of history, law, and tradition. in a society where little was written, memory became a sacred craft. Patrick soon discovered that storytelling could become one of his greatest tools. Christian truth was not merely argued, it was proclaimed through stories that stirred both heart and imagination. Everyday life. Most people lived simple, practical lives. Agriculture sustained families. Cattle represented wealth. Land meant survival. Communities gathered around farmsteads protected by circular earthen forts, ring forts that still dot the Irish landscape today. Children learned essential skills from an early age. Hospitality held a central place in Irish culture. Travelers depended on the generosity of strangers for food and shelter. This tradition later helped missionaries like Patrick move freely across the island. Yet hospitality existed alongside violence. Blood feuds between families could last generations. Honor demanded loyalty. Insults could ignite conflict. Justice often relied on compensation rather than imprisonment. Patrick would need great wisdom to preach reconciliation in such a world. The religious landscape. What did ordinary Irish people believe? Here we must be cautious. Celtic religion was not a single organized system. Beliefs varied from region to region. People honored many spiritual beings, some tied to rivers, others to mountains, others to ancestral memory. Sacred wells held significance long before Christianity. Certain trees were revered. Festivals such as Samhain and Beltane shaped the rhythm of the year. Many believed the visible and invisible worlds stood close together. The boundary between heaven and earth felt thin. Centuries later, Irish Christianity preserved this sense of wonder. Its prayers speak of God's presence woven into the ordinary rhythms of creation. Patrick did not reject nature. He proclaimed its creator. Was Ireland completely pagan? A crucial question deserves clarity. Many imagine Patrick arriving in a land where no one had ever heard of Christ. The evidence suggests otherwise. In AD 431, just before Patrick's mission, Pope Celestine I sent a bishop named Palladius to the Irish believing in Christ. That single phrase matters. It tells us Christian communities already existed, small, scattered, but present. How did Christianity reach them? Likely through trade. Some may have been Roman merchants, others British Christians who settled in Ireland, some perhaps former slaves. Patrick did not introduce Christianity from nothing. He expanded and strengthened a faith already beginning to take root. This distinction highlights his true achievement. He was not Ireland's first Christian. He became its greatest missionary. Why Patrick's mission was extraordinary. Imagine returning voluntarily to the land where you had once been enslaved. Imagine walking back into the place where you lost 6 years of your youth. Imagine preaching peace among the people who once treated you as property. Few would choose such a path. Patrick did, not because Ireland had changed, but because he had changed. The mountains where he once watched sheep would soon hear him preach Christ. The language he learned as a slave would become the language of his mission. The customs he observed in captivity would help him understand the people he came to serve. God had been preparing his missionary long before Patrick realized it. Nothing had been wasted. Not the loneliness, not the suffering, not even the years that seemed lost. The slave had become a shepherd. The captive had become an apostle. And now, carrying little more than scripture, faith, and the authority of the church, Patrick stepped once again onto Irish soil. This time, he came freely, and history would never be the same. Chapter 6. The Apostle returns. The mission that changed Ireland. Sometime in the early mid-430s, Patrick crossed the Irish Sea once more. Years earlier, he had made the same passage as a frightened slave, his hands empty, his future unknown. Now he returned as a bishop of the church. The destination was the same. The purpose could not have been more different. He carried no weapons. He commanded no army. He sought no kingdom. His only ambition was to proclaim Jesus Christ. Patrick understood the land he was entering. He had lived among the Irish. He knew their language. He respected their courage. He remembered their hospitality. And he understood their dangers. No Christian government protected him. No Roman soldiers enforced the law. If a local king rejected his message, Patrick had little defense. If warriors chose violence, no army would come to his rescue. Humanly speaking, the mission offered no obvious path to success. But Patrick had long since learned not to measure God's work by human probabilities. A mission of courage, not conquest. One of the most persistent misconceptions is that Patrick converted Ireland through force or political power. History tells a very different story. Patrick possessed neither. He had no military support. He held no civil authority. He could not compel anyone to become a Christian. Every conversion had to be won through preaching, personal example, patient teaching, and the grace of God. This makes his achievements all the more remarkable. In the Confessio, Patrick writes simply, "I baptized many thousands of people." Most historians understand this not as a statistical report, but as the testimony of a lifetime of ministry. Whether the number was precisely thousands or not, the evidence is clear. Patrick witnessed extraordinary growth of Christianity throughout Ireland, and he did far more than baptize. He established Christian communities. He ordained clergy. He instructed converts in the faith. He planted local churches that could flourish long after he moved on. His mission was never about gathering crowds for a single sermon. It was about planting the church. Traveling through a dangerous land. Patrick rarely stayed in one place for long. His ministry required constant movement across mountains, rivers, forests, and open plains. Some communities welcomed him with joy. Others regarded him with suspicion. Still others greeted him with hostility. Patrick admits danger followed him almost everywhere. He writes, "Every day I expect either murder, betrayal, or captivity." These are not the words of a comfortable man. Patrick knew each journey might be his last. Yet he continued, because he believed every soul was worth the risk. Christ had given his life for these people. Patrick was willing to risk his own. winning the trust of kings. In 5th century Ireland, local kings held immense authority. If a king opposed Christianity, missionary work in his territory became nearly impossible. If he welcomed Patrick, the gospel could spread freely. Patrick understood this. He sought opportunities to meet rulers, but always with integrity. In the Confessio, he explains that he often presented gifts to kings and judges. Modern readers may misunderstand this. These were not bribes. Gift giving was a normal part of diplomatic life in Celtic society. Refusing such customs could easily offend. Patrick writes, "I gave gifts to kings, besides paying wages to their sons who traveled with me." Then he adds something revealing. He spent enormous sums from his own resources for the sake of the gospel. Patrick was not becoming wealthy through his mission. He was giving away what he possessed. He declares, "I never accepted payment from anyone." This is one of the clearest windows into his character. He wanted no one to believe the gospel could be bought. He offered his ministry freely because God's grace had first been given freely to him. The cost of discipleship. Patrick's honesty becomes even more striking when he describes the hardships of missionary life. Unlike later legends, he does not present himself as an untouchable miracle worker. He speaks of very human suffering. He was insulted, mocked, threatened, robbed. He writes that he and his companions were sometimes placed in chains. He recalls being imprisoned for a period before unexpectedly being released. He does not explain the circumstances. Perhaps a ruler changed his mind, perhaps supporters intervened, perhaps God opened an unexpected door. Years of slavery had taught him something invaluable. His freedom rested not in human hands, but in God's. Men and women respond to the gospel. Patrick's preaching reached every level of Irish society: kings, warriors, farmers, merchants, servants, children, and women. He rejoices that many noble women embraced Christianity, even when doing so brought suffering. He writes, "The sons and daughters of Irish kings are becoming monks and virgins of Christ." This brief sentence reveals how deeply Christianity was reshaping Irish society. Some young women chose consecrated virginity, challenging traditional expectations of marriage and political alliances. Patrick admired their courage. He also remembers one newly baptized woman who continued visiting him despite persecution from her family. He does not record her name, but he remembers her faith. History often preserves the names of kings. Patrick remembered ordinary believers whose quiet courage testified to Christ. A bishop who remained humble. As Patrick's influence grew, he never claimed greatness for himself. He insists that every success belonged to God. "I am greatly God's debtor," he writes, "because he gave me such abundant grace." He never boasts about converting Ireland. He never calls himself a hero. He repeatedly calls himself a sinner, the least, unlearned. His humility is striking. Many leaders grow more confident in themselves as success increases. Patrick grew more amazed by God's mercy. Perhaps that humility came from remembering the lonely shepherd he once was. The slave who prayed in the snow never disappeared. He simply became a bishop. history and legend begin to meet. As Patrick's journeys expanded, stories about him spread throughout Ireland. Some accounts were carefully preserved, others grew in the telling. By the 7th century, Irish writers recorded dramatic episodes involving kings, druids, miracles, and public confrontations. Among these stories, one became especially famous: Patrick's encounter with the High King at Tara. Did it happen? Most historians believe the tradition reflects genuine memory, though the details in later biographies include legendary embellishments. The same is true of several other famous episodes. Rather than dismissing these traditions or accepting them uncritically, we should examine them with care. History deserves honesty. Faith welcomes truth, and sometimes even legends preserve spiritual insight. The next chapter leads to one of the most celebrated moments in Irish Christian tradition: the Easter fire on the Hill of Slane, the royal court at Tara, and the fearless bishop who dared to proclaim Christ before the most powerful ruler in Ireland. Chapter 7. The Hill of Tara, Patrick before the High King. Few episodes associated with St. Patrick have captured the Christian imagination more deeply than his encounter with the High King of Ireland. Artists have painted it, poets have sung it, children have learned it in classrooms. Yet this episode also reminds us why we must distinguish history from hagiography, the devotional biographies of saints. Patrick himself never mentions Tara in the Confessio, nor does he describe any confrontation with druids. The story comes instead from the 7th century life of St. Patrick, written by the monk Murcu, nearly 2 centuries after Patrick's death. Murcu was likely drawing on traditions that had circulated within the Irish Church for generations. But he also wrote with dramatic purpose, portraying Patrick as the apostle who brought the light of Christ to Ireland. As we tell this story, we should hold both truths together: its historical possibilities and its symbolic meaning. The Royal Hill of Tara. To understand the weight of the tradition, we must understand Tara itself. The Hill of Tara, in modern County Meath, was more than a royal residence. For centuries, it served as the ceremonial heart of Ireland, a place where high kings gathered with provincial rulers, where assemblies met, laws were proclaimed, treaties negotiated, and festivals celebrated. To the Irish people, Tara represented political authority and sacred tradition. If Christianity gained a hearing there, its influence could ripple across the island. The Festival of Spring. According to Murcu, the events unfolded during the Great Spring Festival, likely Beltane, the ancient celebration marking the beginning of summer. One of Beltane's customs involved lighting ceremonial fires. According to later Irish tradition, the royal fire at Tara was lit first, and other ceremonial fires in the surrounding region were not to be kindled before the king's flame appeared. The king's fire symbolized unity and authority. To light another fire beforehand was to challenge that authority directly. A fire on the Hill of Slane. Not far from Tara rose another hill, Slane. According to tradition, Patrick and his companions climbed Slane on the eve of Easter. There, As Christians prepared to celebrate the resurrection, Patrick lit the paschal fire. Its light pierced the darkness. It could be seen from Tara. Those gathered around the High King realized something extraordinary had occurred. Someone had dared to light a fire before the king's own sacred flame. Messengers hurried to the court. Was this rebellion, defiance, or something stranger still? Summoned before the king, Loegair MacNail, remembered as High King during Patrick's mission, ordered that the stranger be brought before him. Patrick obeyed. He did not flee. He did not extinguish the fire. Accompanied by his companions, he walked towards the royal court. Imagine the scene. The most powerful ruler in Ireland seated among nobles, warriors, poets, judges, and druids. Many suspicious, some curious, others openly hostile. Patrick entered carrying neither sword nor shield. His only weapon was the gospel. The druids oppose him. Mercu recounts that several druids warned the king that Patrick's teaching threatened Ireland's ancient religion. One druid is said to have declared, "If this new faith is not stopped tonight, it will spread throughout the land forever." Whether these exact words were spoken cannot be verified. Yet they express a broader historical reality. Christianity did challenge long-established religious traditions. Patrick's preaching called people away from the worship of created things toward the worship of the Creator. It invited kings and commoners alike to place Christ above every earthly power. Such a message inevitably reshaped society. Whether every dramatic exchange happened exactly as Mercu describes is impossible to know. Even so, many historians believe the tradition may preserve a genuine memory of Patrick proclaiming the gospel before powerful rulers during his mission. While the precise details remain uncertain, the broader picture is entirely consistent with the courageous missionary Patrick reveals in his own writings. Patrick's fearlessness. One detail aligns with both Patrick's own writings and later tradition: his extraordinary courage. In the Confessio, he repeatedly describes entering dangerous places without fear because he trusted Christ completely. This makes the Tara story consistent with the character Patrick reveals. He did not seek conflict, but he did not hide from it. Standing before earthly rulers no longer frightened the former slave. He had already endured captivity. He had already faced death. He had already surrendered his future to God. What more could men take from him? The proclamation of Christ. According to tradition, Patrick spoke boldly before the king and his court. He did not insult Irish religion. He did not mock its customs. He proclaimed the gospel. He spoke of the one true God, the creator of heaven and earth, the God who became man in Jesus Christ, the God who conquered death through the resurrection, the God who desired the salvation of every nation, including Ireland. This matches Patrick's missionary approach. In the Confessio, he never writes with contempt toward the Irish people. He expresses love for them. His goal was never to defeat Ireland. His goal was to win Ireland for Christ. Did the king convert? Popular retellings sometimes claim that Loegair immediately accepted Christianity. history suggests a more nuanced picture. Early Irish tradition suggests that the king did not become a Christian. Instead, he allowed Patrick to continue preaching. This decision proved decisive. Patrick did not need the king to become a believer overnight. He needed freedom to proclaim the gospel. Across Ireland, rulers embraced Christianity at different speeds. Some quickly, some slowly, some perhaps never. Ireland's transformation was not the result of one dramatic moment. It unfolded over decades through countless conversations, baptisms, acts of charity, and quiet witness. A symbol of light. Whether every detail of the Torah story happened exactly as later tradition describes is impossible to know. Yet its symbolism is unmistakable. A fire burning on a dark hillside, the light of Easter shining before the old ceremonial flame, a bishop standing peacefully before earthly power, the gospel entering the spiritual heart of Ireland. For Christians, this became a powerful image of Christ's victory, not through violence, but through truth. Patrick himself would likely have welcomed that interpretation. Everything in his writings points to one conviction: Christ is the true light, not Patrick, not any earthly ruler. Christ alone. The mission continues. After Tara, Patrick's work did not suddenly become easy. He continued traveling, he continued preaching, he continued baptizing, he continued facing danger. The great victories of the church are rarely accomplished in a single dramatic moment. More often, they are built through years of patient faithfulness. Village after village, family after family, soul after soul. Patrick understood this. He was not trying to create a moment. He was building a church, and that church would soon begin producing something extraordinary, not merely believers, but saints, monks, nuns, missionaries, scholars. Within roughly a century and a half after Patrick's death, Ireland had become one of the great centers of Christian learning and monastic culture in Europe. The seeds of that transformation were already being planted, quietly, faithfully, one conversion at a time. Patrick had entered Ireland as a missionary. He had preached, he had baptized, he had endured resistance. And slowly, Christian communities began to take root. But planting the gospel was only the beginning. A church had to be formed. New believers needed shepherds. And soon, Patrick would learn that following Christ brings not only grace, but suffering. Because beyond the victories of his mission, danger was rising. Christians connected to Patrick's work would face violence and captivity, and the missionary who once walked Ireland as a stranger would become the defender of his flock. The next chapter of his life would not be marked by miracles or conversions, but by a letter written in grief, courage, and righteous fire.